denied Sejuani.
Yeah, and if Samsung was going to switch to the ban phase, I thought WE would as well. The Sedge is actually something I would have liked to see Team WE bait with a little bit and hold it off, but so far the first ban in Game 1 from Samsung was Callista, and the Sedge has mashed so far.
That's 100%, of course, and so far it is going as went through in Game 1. Understand what you're saying. Game 1 really was a snowball from level 1, but allowing a straight-up winning bottom lane, having Mystic and Ben win lane while they could also shut down Cuvée, those two factors cannot be recreated. It's not all about draft, but they cannot let Samsung have that happen again.
You can see Game 2 picks and bans on your screen. The Game 1 bans so far are identical. The last ban in Game 1 for Team WE on blue side was Lulu, and the last ban from Samsung was Kog'Maw. When Papa Smithy and I were talking during the break, if we do want to see a breakup of the Rakan-Xayah combo, it would be with a ban right here, but they also have the option of just taking the Xayah away, but they do the ban right here in Kog'Maw.
Argument is that with Lulu and Galio gone, even Sejuani, all of these are really good with a Kog'Maw. So a lot of the pieces around a Kog'Maw are not there, so inherently it does nerf the Kog'Maw's reliability a little bit. Tristana has been very, very high priority at this tournament, lost in Game 1. It could definitely be the selection here, and maybe a recreation of the tempo pushing drafts that we saw early in the tournament from WE.
Yeah, the win-loss on Tristana has taken somewhat of a hit this weekend. However, it is insta-locked, and of course Team WE, they were the team that sort of introduced that hard-pushing, fast-pushing champion. I want to see what they run alongside it with Janna and Lulu taken off the table.
Yeah, and this is the big tweak. You would expect Jarvan Taric for the combo, but watching the way Ambition played on Gragas last game, you got to give that guy Gragas again, because he had such a good performance on it. So that swings the draft phase a little bit differently as well and gives what would be expected to be a larger power pick over to Condi, but the Gragas is so comfortable for Ambition.
When I was predicting pick bans or thinking about what W would do on blue side, given they'll be on blue side theoretically 3 times in this series, I thought maybe they'd emulate yesterday's draft and ban Gragas on blue side to deny it being a very safe pickup for Ambition on red. His most played is playing a bit with the draft here. We have seen a little bit of Nami so far.
And it looks like they want to get a support in before more of them can be banned away. With Rakan, Janna, and Lulu gone, the Karma is the much more standard pick.
Pivoted has been played once by Ben this tournament already. Unfortunately for him, was not that great. 0-3-6 was the final stats, and it is now locked in once again.
An outside chance to mid lane flex pick as well. Does play with the minds of Samsung Galaxy a little bit. Shia does go on wave clear duty from time to time. His crown going to his tried and trusty Varus, by far his most played AD carry in the LCK in summer season. Known to have that small effective champion pool, but on the ones he knows, he sticks with it.
Oh, surprised a little bit there. Straight out the gate, Caston taken away. Samsung maybe leaving their top laner for counter pick, if that's a signal. Not quite sure. We'll see how the rest of these bans play out. What are we considering here, Jats?
Oh man, there is a lot to take in from the early draft phase, but pushing lanes is what Samsung is going to want. That's what they excelled with before. So the Taliyah is not necessarily a bad thing since they've already banned out the Caston, and that's why the Gnar ban makes so much sense for Team WE. So if we don't see a Taliyah ban right now from Team WE, I think we get a Taliyah pick from Samsung.
They're returning to it even if it had no value in Game 1. With the Caston and banned, more of the tricky lanes are gone. Bit of a top lane very large pool available, given there hasn't been any targeting so far. 2 banned away, Gnar, the strongest that Cuvée has shown recently. A lot of power left in the draft. Malzahar banned away. The Taliyah is looking clean, but the Shen also, that was so big for WE in Game 1, could be taken here.
And you talk about the download. That's a lot of changes from the last time Samsung has been on this side. They were the ones that opted into the change as well. All 5 of the first phase bans were the same until the Rakan goes in right there. Then they take the Shen away. Shogath is also up. That's a big pick for 957. They can give that through, but essentially Samsung is tweaking and using the things that they have succeeded with so far.
All right, Cuvée has played Shed twice already, undefeated at Worlds on that champion, and for the 7th time here at Worlds, 957 will get Shogath. He's currently 5-1, this being game number 7. Let's see what Shea is going to run in the mid lane. We're going to see a little bit of a safer pick. This composition, if it gets locked in, a lot of versatility. There is some engage, some disengage, there's some tools that WE can flex.
It's a very solid wave clear as well to potentially rotate Mystic through if they can get the early turret blood bot lane. Talia still available. Let's have that early push onto the Orianna. It's a good wave clear on both sides here. 2v2. Definitely gonna have a pushing lane for WE now that it's confirmed to be the Karma and the Tristan.
Yeah, so much of this game will be about the early push and who can start that turret snowball. We have seen two very fast games in games 1 and 2 with the Nexus falling before 30 minutes. The Karma and the Ori and the Cho'Gath are all wave clear picks right there.
Yeah.
And then look for some invading jungle from Conde.
I mean, you heard a bit of a gasp around the crowd when the Orianna was locked in for Xie. Actually has no games on it in summer season at all, so not a core tenet of his champion pool. So interesting to see a new pick come in for him, at least in terms of the recent history, right here in Game 3 of the World Semifinal.
It's insane to think of Orianna as a new pick for any mid laner, but that's the case we have for Xie right now, and I think a lot of it was a denial pick away from Crown. They were a little bit worried about the Shen, Gragas, Ori kind of delivery system combo they could get with the Orianna, and it hasn't been a super meta pick so far. They have to pick it away.
I mean, for such a staple of champion pools in the mid lane, one game in 2017, a victory, a happy point, but a surprise to the fans and to us.
And of course, it was something that featured in the ban pool, but it was WE banning it earlier in the series. So let's see how Xie can perform. We look at some of his stats. Definitely a player that his story is not told through statistics, but that Orianna can make or break mid to late game team fights as we play out game number 3 here in the second semi-final of Worlds. Team WE, the last LPL team standing, the 3rd seed from the region, 18-19. They've played 20 games already at Worlds, this being number 21. And they want to keep that streak alive and set themselves up for another China versus Korea matchup, but this time in Beijing in Bird's Nest.
Yeah, and I feel like, especially with the way this series is going, Ben is going to have to perform in a big way. He got to play Janna 9 times previously between play-in and now, never lost with it, but they had 2 support bans on Ben, and he hasn't looked good when pushed off his core champions.
Samsung's download includes also stopping there from being an early topside invade like there was in Game 1. Remember, WE invaded Samsung's red side, put down wards, then re-invaded their own red and picked up first blood. Samsung were not interested in that particular hijinks being recreated in Game 3.
Yeah, not this time around. And of course, Game 1, the early kill, setting WE up and setting Ambition behind. Game 2, Ambition shows up and picks up that great kill. Really starting well, dropping the Demacian standard on top of Crown's head, but I want to keep my eyes on Ambition, see how he shows up. We've talked about group stage Ambition and quarterfinals Ambition. Now it's Game 1 and Game 2 Ambition, and we'll see which is going to show up in Game 3.
Yeah, and I wonder if level 2 ganks are a possibility. That's a pretty aggressive gank pattern, or trade pattern we saw in the mid lane. You all very rarely want to actually trade with the Talia level 1 because the Talia will out-trade you, but she went for that aggressively. Could be for the threat of the level 2 Jarvan. I
think also it was for getting this very deep warded onto the Raptors to stop there being a super leash of sorts. It's a mid lane leash. But Ambition starting top side. Little cheeky stun coming through as Conde's actually joining them here. Well, JJ will spot it out.
What does that mean?
They didn't ping him, so that means they didn't spot him in that tri-brush.
Does mean the only pathway straight through lane, and Conde is not spotted going to Ambition's blue buff.
All right, very cheeky. Ambition's made his way north.
Crown might get a ward on it, though. They're really on top of things. He does. That's really smart prep, and now they can collapse on him. I don't know why Conde's sticking around.
All right, Conde's now going to make it away with his life. Level 2 gets the knockup, gets a good chunk of damage down onto Crown. Forced to run for his life. No movement yet from Xie. Xie was stuck in the middle lane, has finally moved. Flash for flash. 4JJ looks for Conde, but gets to summon a heal from Xie as well.
This is really delicate. Crown's still level 1, trying to get into the minion wave. Takes another Thunderlord's trade.
Man, these games, the action, like trading levels, has persisted across all 3, just blow for blow from minute 1.
I do love the flow-on effect, though, Ja. I love the fact that it was just a bit of a feeling. Like you say, they didn't spot the Jarvan in the brush, went for a ward to deny even the gank, but they went to the next level and said, okay, we thought he was there, why not check the blue buff? Couldn't get a big advantage from it.
Yeah, just credit to Crown and Ambition for being able to get those wards. Can't get the kill, but it's a pretty big advantage they potentially gained off of that. Xie also has used heal in the laning phase. Conde now flashless, so that really strong start that Team WE had in Game 1 the last time they were on blue side. It's not the case right off of this.
Take a look at Cube, moves in, gets that Scryer's Bloom pop, places a ward down. All information completely downloaded on the side of Samsung. They've got the entire playbook available to them. Now, of course, there is somewhat of a cost because of the shenanigans. Minus 10 CS in the bottom lane, minus 8 CS in the middle lane. So Team WE has got some advantages against the pushing lane or in the lanes where they can push.
I mean, bottom lane is definitely going to be painful. No flash carriage against already the advantageous pushing lane matchup of Tristana and Karma. So for now, under the turret mid lane for Samsung. Samsung ambition just being a jerk.
Yeah, no doubt.
And we do have to pay a lot of attention to this bottom lane. Mystic is on a scaling AD carry like Tristan. They have the winning lane, right? If that is the key for their success, which it has been, it's on Ambition and Samsung to try and shut that down.
Ambition's setting himself up, but it's a difficult lane to get into. All summoners available, Ben and for Mystic. Body Slam not even going to reach. Pulled ever so slightly short. Ben, it felt like he was on the trigger finger. Anticipated there could have been somebody waiting in the bush and gets away safe.
Yeah, Ben didn't flash that because the follow-up just wasn't there for Samsung. It would have just been a lone Gragas that would have hurt with some poke, but ultimately not that threatening. And it's good that Ben has the presence of mind to realize that, because you place a ward in the Fog of War and you have half a second to make a decision of whether or not you have to flash the Gragas. You need to have the whole game in your focus in that moment to know not to flash, and Ben didn't even flinch.
Let's see what it equates to. Is now Ben's going to get, oh, just sidestepped the Dazzle actually. Shay unable to interrupt Crown's recall. And the game is a gold advantage to Team WE thanks to that CS numbers that have been accrued in the middle and bottom lane. We've not touched on 957 Cuvée. It is a farm lane. Cho'Gath into Shen getting close to 6. And that means Cuvée, the safety button of Stand United, will allow Ruler and Forger Jakes a little bit of extra breathing room from any shenanigans that WE can put on the map.
Yeah, and post 6 on the solo lanes, this bottom lane becomes a much scarier place and diminishes a lot of the strength you would get from the pushing Tristana and the Karma.
A really good buffering there from Mystic.
3-6 though, they could be rather ambitious. Would they try for a dive? It would be incredibly ambitious. Their damage just isn't there yet.
Yeah, maybe if heal barrier was down, you could try to make something happen, but with both being up, a little bit too risky there, so Condi will just back away. Do like the fact, we're going to compliment Samsung on their adaptations in draft and early game. Worth noting that WE finding more pushing lanes, going for the Karma, also having very good wave clear in mid and top is an adaptation for them.
Okay, Root is going to connect down onto Ruler. No flash for Core JJ, but
they're going to try a 5-man dive here if they actually go for this.
the knock up onto Core JJ. Remember, no flash. Shockwave comes back. Stand United was picked up. That's been interrupted by 957, but this should open up tower damage in favor of Team WE. Going to start hammering that one away. The E comes down from Mystic and will just pop. Where's the rest of WE? They're not sticking around.
Get the Stand United without it turning anything around, but that's still just the top laner who can teleport in. They're applying as much possible pressure as they can while they have this window in the bottom lane.
But it's so hard to actually DPS down a turret when Talia can rotate so quickly. When Shen, honestly, is happy that he was interrupted in that particular scenario because there was no more damage to follow, and he gets to stay in lane and keep pushing. Cho'Gath was held accountable. That means that Samsung really lose little apart from a chunk on bot lane out.
Yeah, and Team WE is playing on such tight timings for that play. They were there with She at level 6 before Crown was level 6. Crown couldn't match with that Weaver's Wall, but Cuvée did hit 6, just barely, and it was the ultimate of the Shen that ultimately saved Core JJ's life.
And that means he gets away to fight another day, and fight we shall have. Ben gets caught up by the Dazzle, trades back and forth, no 6s available yet. Mystic and Ben continue to back away. Neither of these bottom lanes have been able to recall. Doran's shield and potion still available for Ruler and Mystic. And this Weaver's Wall going to cut off any potential escape if Mystic and Ben overextend, but it feels like they're playing just on the edge of safety.
Even just the fact that he left lane made it so Mystic missed the cannon wave. So he is relieving pressure just in that moment.
All right, nicely done. Good trade there between Xie and Crown has actually overtaken the CS deficit he found himself in. Thanks to that play, thanks to that focus on the bottom lane by Team WE. We're heading to the 10-minute mark and it's still even. Nobody's died yet, despite multiple attempts.
It's like the what-ifs have been created, but none of the answers have been shown. Condi on the back foot the last couple of moments. Flash back up from the earlier plays. Top lane, it's been the island so far.
What I like about this game, in contrast to the two previous, both junglers are kind of on a more even footing.
Sure.
Neither jungler's been as heavily hit behind. It's a 150 gold separating Condi and Ambition. Whereas both previous games, one or other party really got accelerated ahead, and it felt like it was a trickle that turned into a downfall.
Yeah, and I think both junglers are actually behind the normal experience curve that you would come to expect. You can see Condi here, still level 5, nearly 9 minutes into the game. Ambition just hitting 6. Like, Ben is about to hit level 6 as a support. They have been roaming wards for a lot of this early game, spotting each other out and trying to prevent dives.
Something that's been afforded to Samsung has been the pushing advantage in the previous games, around 50% forward percentage for Ruler, means they've been pushing under turrets in game 1 and game 2. WE changing up their draft means that this game they have had the forward percentage. They've been ahead of the river, just to give you a visual indicator, and it means they have a lot of priority around the bot side here, specifically around the blue buff of Samsung.
Yeah, I'm gonna hurt that statistic. It just popped up on your screen, and Cube also on screen just placed that blue buff or that Gromp side ward once again. Feels like every time Cube can, he moves lane to set that up, still out farming 957's Cho'Gath, as you would expect in the matchup. And the 80 carries, by the way, still yet to back 2,500 gold on each side. So a lot of power still to be gained, as 10 minutes of laning phase is not equated into the opportunity to leave that tower.
Yeah, and the first person to leave the turret is going to be giving up a lot of turret damage. They're both saving up a large amount of gold to try and go. I think the sensor is potentially more important than the 80 carry, but they're going for a fight here.
Oh, good interrupt by Condi. Flashed away from the shockwave. Stand United comes down. Xie and Condi now are in a fight they maybe do not want. The taunt connects onto Condi. Summoning Kill has been used once again, and nobody dies. But WE forcing the Stand United. What more can they do with this?
A lot of respective cooldowns on both sides. No interest from Ambition to flash until he saw the shockwave animation. Got out of that, and then Xie ran out of damage very early in the game with just a lost chapter and Merc Treads. Not going to be able to DPS down Ambition with his Balmy Cinder. Have to invest the Stand United, so maybe a play around the bottom lane they've tried previously is more reliable now for WE.
Exactly. The second purely defensive cooldown that Cuvée has had to use of Stand United allows Mystic and Ben to continue pushing here. We said after the draft phase that the lane pressure was so critical in the success of this game, and this is a small way that Team WE is working towards that. Getting Stand United down, 957 has plenty of tools to interrupt a Shen teleport while they are trading in laning patterns, and it gives Team WE a certain level of safety bottom side.
Team WE gonna try use that safety. Every time we see Condi's really showing his face towards that bottom quadrant, you know, really prioritizing that lane is something we've seen a fair amount, and still no back, still no absolute tower control yet, despite Mystic and Ben trying to keep ruling Core JJ defense.
That's a small point, but an extended laning phase when you're going Rage Bait is really important. You want to back and buy a straight up Rage Bait, not have the power droppers. We'll hold the point though.
All right, Weaver's Wall comes down. There's no real follow-up. Explosive cast is on cooldown by Ambition. Ben doesn't want to play that one too risky. Flash heal over the wall.
And I think the word we can use to describe all of these plays is patient.
Yep.
From both teams. They use the Weaver's Wall right away. Ruler and Core JJ are like, but the minions, I kind of want to finish them off before. The wall's going to be there for a couple seconds, right? And they wait. And then Ben also waits until he's in risk of actually dying before flashing over the wall. That all could have been done really early, but they're trying to get the most mileage possible out of these summoner spells, and they're being very disciplined about how they use it.
Oh, that's going to set us up for some exciting fights later. If anyone holds on to the trigger, Xie under risk of getting caught up by Ambition. The task is available. Body Slam comes up. There's the flash. Ambition still holding on the trigger. Every single skirmish is just on the edge of safety and danger.
Yeah, and she is kind of forced into trading with Crown over and over again because Crown is consistently playing to that bottom side of the map, and without his flash and with Ambition's flash being desynced, that may be where we end up seeing first blood in this game.
With the gold grass we had on the screen before, both 80 carries backing without 3,700 gold, it is going to be massive purchases. Ruler should be able to straight up buy a Rage Blade. Adds it to the Ardent Sensor. Staying in lane for 12 minutes for a Rage Blade carry is insane. This is the first buy Rage Blade we've had at the entire tournament, and now the instant power level gain for Samsung cannot be matched by any items but Tristana and Karma.
What is the equalizer on the other side? Mystic, obviously, Berserker's Greaves, Pickaxe, BF Sword, but Ben has completed that Ardent Sensor.
Yeah, the Ardent Sensor not quite committed for Core JJ will be pivotal. But the way I look at the matchup usually is when you're against a Rageblade carry, you get Berserker Greaves and BF Sword, you can push lanes, you can turret rotate. The recurve go of Pickaxe just kind of chilling, waiting for the Rageblade to be complete. So it's big that WE and Samsung have been forced to stay in lane so long, and Ruler now gets a very nice one-item power spike.
Yeah, I actually think, though, based on the damage amp and sustain of the Ardent Sensor, that Mystic and Ben can still win this lane. This poke doesn't necessarily mean that much when he can just sustain back up. But after another wave or two, when Core JJ can recall to go get that Ardent Sensor, that's when you really notice that advantage.
Oh, look at the damage. Full 4 autos onto that E. Ruler gets chunked down, gets the heal from Core JJ instantly. But keep your eyes on Mystic. Every auto giving that HP back thanks to the Ardent Sensor, and Condi is waiting in the wings. But okay, Stand United is up and available. Teleport is there for 957, and with Cuvée backing on the minimap, you have to wonder if something is being set up. Looking down, Crown and Ambition making their way. This is going to be a gigantic party if everybody continues to pull the trigger. Weaver's Wall not yet fires.
Ben being flashless caused a level of uncertainty for Team WE to be aggressive, which ended up putting them in the right spot because that's what Samsung was looking to punish.
But Samsung has to outnumber because of the Ardent Sensor being there, because the damage instant trades are being lost by Ruler and Core JJ. But once again, a lot of the setup, but no payoff as the back start, and Tark's going to leave now just to get the Ardent Sensor.
WE are just quietly farming up this lead. You know, Mystic now nearly 26 CS up. Small misstep there by Shie, but, you know, Righteous Glory picked up for 957. Shie and Mystic getting closer to their first big completion, and you have to feel that both teams are going to be fairly happy with this even early game because they both scale relatively well to the mid and lates.
And they're both big-time team-fighting teams. Like, that's the point in the game that they really want to get to. I would say that Samsung has a bit of a hedge towards a 4-1 team and a split-pushing team, but still big, giant team fights. And Shie with Condi are going to be looking to pull off the Jarvan-Orianna combo in team fights and have Mystic go off the backside and clean up. So, yes, the Rageblade is a power spike for Ruler right now, but neither team is super unhappy about the state of this game.
In the super late game, I take Cho'Gath in 2 tank comps over the Shen and Gragas in the pure 5v5 just because Cho'Gath feasts on the front line. Shockwave inevitably going to hit some frontline members as it goes for some carries, and you usually have the first frontliner go down. So in the super late game, I look to WE, but super late game is very far away when we're only 16 minutes into the game.
Well, it feels like we're going to get there, though. At this current tempo, neither team making a mistake yet. Oh, big burst of damage from Ruler. Getting the best of that trade with that Rageblade stack as well as the Blighted Quiver.
Exactly. Keep the Rageblade stacked up. It means one hit gives him 2 Blights. He procs it right away, and it's an untradeable thing for Mystic as he's kind of stuck under his turret at this current moment, and that's why Samsung is threatening.
Keep your eyes on this dive. The latest
Giving up the turret for it.
The latest first blood at Worlds, gentlemen. 17 minutes and 41 seconds. A little over 70 seconds away. A tower will die before a champion does in favor of Samsung Galaxy. And what more will they take with it? They got the first dragon, they got the first tower, and Samsung are now in control of
and
the
they couldn't get a deep ward down bot lane, so even though 957 with his trademark step out of lane, look for a teleport, there was no flank ward. That's the one that cost Cloud9 so dearly in game 1 of that quarterfinal. No ability to punish, so a free objective to Samsung.
Yeah, and I think the threat that Samsung was putting on the turret justified Team WE backing off. But the Shen ulting in on a Taric who puts Cosmic Radiance on everyone probably would have been first blood of the game, and then also the turret for Samsung. So I think the patience of Team WE, even though it hurts to just give up first turret when you're the Trist Karma lane, it feels bad, was the right call in the moment.
So Samsung bringing a lot of power to bear. In fact, that Crown is even threatening as well as everybody else. So continue to play out this very, very, very extended laning phase. I mean, Ruler and Core JJ, they didn't leave their tower. They want to hold on to it. They came back down. I want to see where Mystic and Ben go after they've just backed and picked up the Infinity Edge, because it feels like Team WE They're the ones that are making the first swap here. Mystic and Ben have left the lane. Obviously, they have no tower left to defend.
Yeah, and it is a game of inches as well at this point. 18 minutes in now, no first blood, but the vision control starting to creep up for Samsung. They've already taken first turret. They're controlling the red buff. They have the dragon. They are building these advantages slowly.
To maybe dive the Cho'Gath, as Cho'Gath has been sent to deal in the 1v2 and almost supreme control of the bot side to Samsung.
And as long as Ruler's keeping his Ginsus fully stacked, he is so much more threatening. He's doing a great job of that with this red buff.
Yeah, Team WE cannot hold into the inner turret, so the second of the game will fall. Almost uncontested. Xie may be cut off by Crown.
They're looking for more. They're going to keep pushing. There's no reason for them to back off.
All right, Xie's now joined the fight. This is a 4v3 at best. Wave clear of Orianna and Cho'Gath will buy some time. Team WE will pick up their first tower. It's still an even game in gold as we get to this 20-minute mark. And in comparison to the two previous games, where it felt like the winner had already been dictated and decided, this is obviously the most even of the series. And now we get to see who can flex their mid and late game team fighting skills. Both teams comfortable in the late game, historically within their own regions.
Yeah, and right now, Samsung is doing a really good job of working around the Rageblade power spike. That's the one-item power spike that Tristana doesn't get. The Infinity Edge needs to have the static shiv counterpart, and then I feel like really kicks in a high gear on the second Zeal item. So Team WE is just trying to withstand this storm, but Samsung getting more out of the Rageblade power spike than many teams have so far at Worlds.
A lot of that from just being able to keep the laning phase going till both AD carries had over 100 CS. A jungle gank comes up, someone has to back with a flash down. They don't get the Rage Blade as a first buy. But extending the laning phase that long was the only real advantage either team has gotten the entire game.
And you see how safely Team W played around the Rift Child as well. It started that one off, instantly backed away the moment any sort of Samsung presence was shown. So that one's going to time out. No Herald today. In game 3, rather. Dragon will be coming up in a minute and a half. Samsung picked up the first one. 1 towers to 2, but still an even goal game. Just setting ourselves up for some big, very, very pivotal fights. One confident, one strong victory can lead to a Baron, can lead to absolute map control and vision control.
A lot of pain here. Red buff and the Titanic Hydra complete. All 957 can do is run away.
Has to completely concede the wave, which means Cuvée is free to ultimate, which then makes it more difficult for Team WE to defend this turret, knowing the Shen ultimate could come in and die. Mystic has to cede a lot of ground to Ruler.
And it's so important that they got first turret on bot side, because now you send the 4-man unit top side, Shen can join instantly. The Taric Ardent Sensor Baron threat is something we always talk about, but it's so real if Samsung can cement control on top side, and to me, steps towards that, get this top lane turret, take down mid, and then Baron's on the menu very short.
And there's a very real chance this could be a game where we see first Baron before first blood.
Oh.
It depends if they are disciplined enough to set up this bottom side play, and Team WE doesn't try and orchestrate a Jarvan and Orianna play to burst in before the Taric ultimate can land, because if Samsung keep prepping around this mid lane and top lane turret, they could get something to happen. It just all depends if W wants to sit and defend.
Mission.
They're going to look for it.
Dead.
First blood will be picked up by Ruler onto Xie, the latest of World 2017. Tower is the focus as well. Going to drop that one. Third tower of the game.
But that only happened because Team WE tried to defend, in which they were not equipped to do so. The waves are out of position. That could have just been a turret and not a kill for Samsung, but they end up getting a little bit more.
But for Samsung, it's surgical, chat. This game is what they wanted to do in game 1. Disarray in the early game meant they couldn't hit their power spikes. They fell behind. They lost this game. It has been the sort of control game. Samsung are the sort of team that could win a game with 0 kill score, that they can play around side lanes well. And you talk about things like the gap, which is a big thing. We'll hold on to that point, though, is in the mid lane, I'll hold on to the gap point because the Gragas play here, very nice.
Yeah, and you can see Xie doesn't have time to react. Had maybe 0.2 of a second by the time Ambition showed before he was instantly CCG'd to death. Then they get the turret afterwards, no problem.
The gap between Korean teams and other teams has closed. You can see that in this tournament, where so many games have gone to 5. Team fighting-wise, there's definitely been very impressive team fighting teams outside of Korea. But guys, the one area where consistently I think SKT and Samsung show it best that Korea is advanced is in terms of playing the map, in terms of the macro play, in terms of playing around tempo, being defensive where you need to and getting big advantages on other sides of the map. Samsung have done that in game 2 and game 3, and you feel this kind of strangulation of WE, even if the kill score is so low.
And you also have to wonder, though, how much advantage can Samsung get? Because they need to have a lot. They need to play around this Baron, unless W can get the fight.
Body slam was interrupted there. Condi still got Cataclysm available, but look at the Radiance. That's going to buy so much time. Now it's a 5v4. Good shockwave in reply. 957 gets the feast out. It's a 1-for-1 jungler for support. Cube gets a taunt up, knocked back, and Shide's dropped down. His flash means nothing. Samsung Galaxy are running away with this fight as they're trying to run Ben and Mystic down. Mystic takes a couple more volley shots to the face and ends up being a 1-3 in favor of Samsung.
And there was 21 minutes of pain leading up to that moment of the surgical demolition from Samsung. WE goes for the fight, but they just don't get the clean initiation. The Taric ultimate ends up going down, and they just clean house on Team WE and now have the large lead they have been building towards for so long.
And the adjustment and pick of bans is no clearer than the Shen that was prioritized in the second round. The Shen able to use here, used on Ambition, huge shield coming through from both the Shen, coverage of the Colossus. Watch the Shen particularly, get the first kill onto Condi, he's all alone. The taunt here from Cube after the shockwave onto Gia and multiple members turns the fight. The start at 1-for-1.
And then watching the end of this fight, the taunt chained into the seismic shove.
Beautiful.
What takes Xie out of the fight was still a relatively close fight before that moment, but in that big moment, they do out-execute.
And look at the gold difference. So a bunch of kills, Baron secured as well, and a 5,000 gold lead. Samsung Galaxy are ahead in every single metric, and they played the map beautifully already. Now it just gets easier with Baron.
And they have silenced this crowd as well. These are the demoralizing types of games you talk about. Team WE already lost with the Jarvan Galio, the dream composition for themselves. And this game, Samsung has just lulled them to sleep, but are winning in all of the lanes. It was about the push. That's what we talked about. They had the push in so many different ways, and they're getting aggressive only when they need to, making it feel a little bit hopeless for Team WE. Can WE even really get on the board in this game? Because they need something to get some momentum back.
Safe objectives for WE to pick up have dwindled minute after minute. Minions became harder. Their jungle camps were contested. Wards were moved up, and now with an engage comp, which is really all you can describe WE's comp as it stands right now. There isn't an engage they win. There's not a 5v5 fight, even like the Rumble Twitch that we saw in Game 1, that really looks realistic to go their way. And Samsung keeps pushing up, and all WE can do is be second to a rotation and hope for a Samsung mistake.
Yeah, looking at the timing there, as soon as Rula and Cordia J made their way to the tower, Cube was waiting in the wings, potentially setting up a dive from behind. The moment there's not a clear push, go back, shove the next wave, and roam to middle.
Remember that it's not been a perfect game from Samsung. The two defensive Shen ults stopped there from being picked earlier, delayed the game. The Shen's power, just in saving the couple of mistakes early game, have allowed there to be largely a good performance. But if those mistakes lead to kills, it's a very different game.
Yeah, it prevents any type of snowball, though, because they had it. Right, so they were playing defense where they had to, so they can continue to apply the pressure in the right places. The Trist Karma still haven't taken the bottom lane turret, right? The fact that that is still standing speaks volumes to the way Crown, I feel like, was consistently living in the river in the early game on that Talia.
Hurt him early on, but it made up for it later. Those ultimates from Crown's Talia just allowed the bottom two towers fall in quick succession, and that's when Samsung's map play took over, something that we were talking about, just how clean they were playing. You can hear the chants trying to come in here in favor of WE.
A bit of restless energy, that's what it sounds like. The people want to see something, they want to see signs of life from WE, but Samsung are not obliging.
Yeah, and games like this, where it's 4 kills to 1, 26 minutes in, make it feel very much like a strategy game, which allows you to kind of dissect the team compositions and what tools they have in these moments. And the Talia is so key for them right now. The fact that they picked the Shen, Xie decided not to go for the Talia, which could have given them more bot side pressure, afraid of whatever Crown's counter pick could have been to the Talia, is having a pretty large output onto the state of this game.
I mean, it feels like we're watching a Civilization game, and it's an economic victory coming through from Samsung. There's been no bloodshed. 5 kills, most of which were in one single fight. Otherwise, the economics show you very clearly it's only gone in one way from 15 minutes. They got standing gold. They made some mistakes with 2 defensive Shen ults before this red side graph started. And from there, it's only been one-way traffic.
It has been, and now Samsung need to get through the wave clear. There is one thing a Team WE do have. Obviously, the Orion and the Cho'Gath can help, even more so when Mystic almost 2 shots the wave and Ruler. But man, oh man, WE now need to look for a mistake or look for a magical engage before the Cosmic Radiance land in order to turn around this gigantic goal deficit.
Yeah, and I think Samsung is just in a holding pattern now until the objectives come back up. The second mountain is now up. With that 1-3-1, they pushed Team WE into defensive positions, making this Drake uncontestable. They already have good control wards in the blue buff of Team WE, which preempts the Baron Vision. Samsung, they've played this game before. They know how to start out the game, and they're just going through the motions right now.
Really nicely done. The smaller side, I would have loved if they delayed it 30 seconds and just forced the 35-05 Elder Dragon, you know, just in case the game doesn't end before then. Speed up that process. Irrelevant, however. It's just something I'd like to see coming in more.
They probably wanted the Infernal Drake. 2 mountains in a cloud, they're just like, well, what's it going to be? The Infernal would be nice. They get another cloud. If they knew it was a cloud, they would have waited that 10 seconds, but they're willing to roll the dice.
Either way, Samsung is in an absolutely great position. You know, closing this out will put them 1 Nexus kill away from a 2016 rematch in the finals with SKT. Samsung continuing to, I don't want to say surprise necessarily, this was a series where they were favored, but if you had said at the beginning of the tournament that it was going to be a Samsung SKT final, it would have been a shocking thing to state.
Absolutely. Longzhu were the big favorites from Korea. SKT are always SKT. But Samsung, impressive in fits and spurts. This has kind of been the story of this team who, in terms of actually making it to a regional final, LCK final, they've never done it since that famous Samsung Blue lineup made the finals. Since they came together as Samsung Galaxy at the start of 2015 with all those players moving over to China, they've never made a final. In fact, when it comes to Gauntlet playoffs, they're 0-9 in the postseason. They haven't won a single game towards getting to one of those regional finals. It'd be an absurd world where a team could win the world final potentially, having never won their domestic league.
Yeah, and Team WE, even though they won in spring, were the 3rd place team in the summer split. But even refocusing in on this game, there is still the slightest of chances that Team WE find the right team fight. If they can somehow burst Ruler, get the Shockwave, and he has not flashed it, with Mystic on these items right now, they could get a huge fight. And Team WE has done this against tons of teams in the LPL, so it is a possibility.
Whenever I see 4 items on Mystic, everything is possible. He has hit his item spikes just fine.
We're gonna try for it.
Gonna try indeed. Cosmic Radiance will be good. Stand United still available, and the trigger was not pulled, so they traded 2 ultimates for 1 in favor of Condi.
They would have loved to blow more, but that is still going to be something. Cosmic Radiance is down. Greater chance they can find the fight they're looking for. Notice there is 2 lockets on Samsung's side. They are both up to answer the shockwave.
The flash was big. Condi needs to find a way to get some of his health back, especially without the Cataclysm. So Samsung still being fairly confident. Here's Ambition!
All right, Ambition's got the Stand United on his head. Mystic is able to buffer the escape on that rocket jump. Now it's a full-on 5v5. Shockwave pulls back 2, but it's not only the front line. 4JJ gets feasted down, and Samsung win. They get the first kill. Their damage dealers went untouched.
It's the double locket meant that the shockwave did almost nothing. Both of them popped, negated all the burst damage, and from there they're looking for another turn.
Yeah, Cube's gonna look for that taunt flash possibility, not gonna find the target. Ben gets shut down as the Weaver's Wall locks him out. There's 9,000 gold in the lead, and Samsung gonna peel away to the Baron.
That double locket was so good. There are diminishing returns when the second person presses the locket, but it almost made you think Terracotta was still up. You're like, ooh, the shockwave. What happened right there? Mystic couldn't get through Shen. Samsung had the gold lead, played with the gold lead, and played that fight beautifully.
Simple equation. Double locket versus a no Void Staff Orianna, unfortunately, means no lasting damage onto the carries. The moment that happened, they could just turn on the front line. Mystic had to move backwards, and all the damage was gone from WE.
I'm so glad you talked about that no Void Staff. When we get out of the replay, look at the item disparity between these 2 teams, but this is obviously the secondary engage.
Yeah, also burning the flash of Xie very early on. 957 does teleport in, but frontline versus frontline, you're ulting the two tanks. They hardly take that much damage, and the carries are completely untouched for Samsung, able to free hit.
Usually when you see that dive in, the amount of burst damage would mean that the front line is brittle. You can't have your carries continue to move forwards. Not the case with the double locket. And Trevor, he went for the Banshee Veil because he was on the way to it. He saw the Fiendish Codex. He felt pressured enough because of how the game was gone, not confident enough to go for the Void Staff. It's one of those weird spots where maybe you need to hit and hope with the Void Staff and accept that you don't have the defensive opportunities. We talked about calculated risks in game one. This feels like very much a defensive choice in a game where you don't have the latitude to make it.
At this stage of the game where it is, you need that 3000 elo shockwave, and a Banshee's Veil's not going to get you close to that, especially when you compare on the other side, Deathcap, Leandre's, Morello, and Voidstop for Crown's Talia. He's just going to be destroying people with that threaded volley. So Baron up, only inhibitor turrets remaining. WE now have to defend against Baron empowered minions.
Yeah, and it's a double Mountain Drake Baron. So I think that's also why Ruler picked off this rapid fire cannon. It's not necessarily the item you would expect out of the Bears, but it's for those siege shots. They Talia wall around with the double Mountain. That was easy. But Samsung is also just making it look that easy.
Cutting through the tower like a hot knife through butter. Inhibitor falls as well. WE, they don't fancy themselves any opportunity for an engage yet.
Yeah, and Team WE has probably just waited too long to find these fights. They were never able to orchestrate that right engage, and it's the gold that is really paying off right now. It's just a 3-inhib destruction by Samsung. Team WE, the reason they're not engaging is because the game just ends on an engage, and they're hoping for some type of lucky fight with Mystics, but Samsung is not the team to give it to.
Trying to find an opportunity. Cosmic Radiance starts getting channeled, and Condi will stay alive just a little while longer, but the chain of corruption spreads from 957. He's forced to flash back away. Now Ambition takes a couple of autos. Look at those shields and the lockets and the heals. The third inhibitor falls. Samsung, despite the fight looking a little bit hairy, they get every inhibitor, and this will just allow them to use this 14,000 gold lead and double super minions to push down the Nexus.
Yeah, the game extends, but to what end when you lose all 3 inhibitors when you're WE? They have the teamfight tools, but they never felt confident enough to pull the trigger because they couldn't force anything out of Samsung. They're not even finding Krugs or minions or monsters in their base to find more gold. They can't close what is now feeling like an unassailable 15,000 gold lead.
And Papa Smithy, with the tempo of this game, Crown has gone to the library and picked up the same book that Faker was reading from yesterday. Got himself 9 stacks on that Medjai's in 35 minutes. There's the next dragon, not an Elder. However, this game may be over before that even gets a chance to spawn, because Samsung, they have just absolutely controlled what felt like every stage of this game.
It's just so demoralizing if you're WE, this team that fancy yourself in a late game team fight. You would have been happy with the pace of the game being slow, but they kept slipping. Maybe they weren't even conscious of it, but every second it slipped a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. We could identify it, but it was so small at the time. But now it's turning into a much faster pace because this game ends when Samsung chooses for it to.
3 inhibs down, don't even need the Baron because there are 6 super minions that can crash at the same time as they prep this push, and they're even just pulling them off the turret with another Talia wall.
Yeah, that rapid fire cannon's going to keep Ruler safe as well if needed. There's the engage from Condi. Can't even finish the Cataclysm. He just gets dropped where he stands. Between Crown and Ruler, they destroy him. Team WE, last Bastion, last Nexus turret, last chance in a 4v5. Cosmic Radiance start getting channeled, and Ben will get split away from the team. Mystic goes down before he does. 957 and Shie, the last people standing. It will not matter, it will not care. And Samsung Galaxy are 1 win away from a rematch in the finals with SKT.
And that game was just pure, unadulterated domination by Samsung right here. It feels bad if you were WE right now in front of your home crowd to get beaten 10 kills to 1 in 36 minutes. Just total map play the entire time, and WE never found a fight.
And we've got verification, gentlemen. The download is complete, judging on what we saw in Game 3. WE looking demoralized because there was never that chance to make something happen. They'll find themselves on the red side also for Game 4 if we see Samsung choose blue, as has been the trend in the weekend. Samsung look relieved. They've earned themselves a bit of relief because that was as decisive as can be.
All right, 2 game game match point now. Got a little bit of breathing room on the side of Samsung.